Vantage, an evocative name for a magnificent bloodline of thoroughbred sports cars. For 7 decades, the heartbeat of Aston Martin's purest models, the Vantage nameplate has been worn by some of its most memorable designs, and this is another of them. If you think you know what an Aston is and can be, and you haven't tried this Vantage, then you might need to think again. As with the brand's other models, you might still buy it because of the way it looks or because it makes you feel like James Bond. We think, though, that you'll simply want one because it's a very, very good sports car.
You'll want this Vantage to be fast. It is. The intoxicating soundtrack and the exhilarating roar under hard acceleration makes this car feel supercar quick. In fact, the performance figures from the 510 PS Mercedes AMG sourced V8 wouldn't have been out of place in a fully fledged supercar just a few years back, thanks to a thumping 685 Nm of torque developed from just 2,000 RPM. 62 miles an hour from rest can flash by in just 3.6 seconds if you're quick with the deliciously tactile aluminium gearshift paddles. And for brave or foolhardy owners who've a runway, a racetrack or a restricted autobahn to hand, maximum velocity is reached at 195 miles an hour. The steering could use a touch more feel in extremis, but otherwise it's brilliantly feelsome and is one of the parameters you can alter to suit your preferences via the Sport and Sport Plus and track settings that apply both to the driving mode system and the Skyhook adaptive dampers. If you're interested, the efficiency stats are 26.8 miles per gallon on the combined cycle and 245 grams per kilometre of CO2. Which is where we could leave things if this were any other Aston, but it isn't. Let's be clear. This is nothing like any of the brand's models we've ever tested before in the way it changes direction and sides from bend to bend. A key reason why lies with the installation of an electronic rear differential that can understand the car's behaviour and react accordingly to direct the engine's power to the relevant wheel. There's also tremendous traction from the bespoke Pirelli P0 tyres, perfect 50-50 weight distribution, a vast improvement in the body's torsional stiffness, and an impressively powerful braking system. The result of all this is billed as the first Aston you'd really want to take on a race circuit. Own this car and it would be criminal not to even at least try a track day in it. Of course, in creating the car this way, Aston's made it less effective at the things an Aston's usually very good at, wafting you long distances at very high speeds and leaving you fresh and almost rejuvenated at the end of it. But the Vantage doesn't do badly in this respect, with a reasonably supple ride for commuting duties. If you want to do better, buy a DB11. But that car isn't the game changer in terms of drive dynamics that this one is. For us, it's the best Aston ever made. This Vantage makes a statement, particularly here at the front end, which is dominated by the lowest sighted functioning grille ever to have been used on one of the company's cars, and surely also one of the largest. In profile, you're reminded again that this new era Vantage shares nothing but its name with its predecessor. It doesn't share much with its DB11 showroom stablemate either, apart from the all-aluminium chassis it rides upon. And even here, 70% of the structural components are different in this model. Our favourite vantage point, though, is here at the rear, which is dominated by this pencil-thin LED lighting strip and this aggressively angled lower diffuser, which helps to generate 50 kilos more downforce than the previous model could offer. There's much to like once inside. It's a cockpit that shrinks round you far more than it does in a DB11, as you'd expect it might, given this Vantage's 101mm reduction in wheelbase. You sit 10mm lower than you did in the previous model, which helps with the immersive feel, and grasp a flat-bottomed race-style stitched wheel, complete with huge aluminium paddle shifters. Through it, you view a single dial instrument binnacle, the colours of which change depending on drive and suspension mode selections made respectively via tabs on these right and left wheel spokes. An 8-inch Mercedes-sourced infotainment screen might look like an iPad hammered into the dash, but it works well enough and the fit and finish just about meets the exclusive standard required of an exotic super sports car of this price. The triangular layout of the transmission buttons works well, and there are lovely touches like these beautifully handcrafted footwell knee pads and the saddle leather door pulls. Storage space is at a bit of a premium, but you can at least reach back to this boot shelf, which tries to compensate for the lack of the useful little rear pews you'd get in a DB11 or, perhaps more pertinently, in a rival Porsche 911. That 911 would give you boot space at both ends of the car. You don't get that here, but the 350-litre luggage area capacity is vastly better than you get from, say, a rival Audi R8 or McLaren 540C. You're still going to have to pack with squashy bags rather than big suitcases, but there's enough room here to make transcontinental GT motoring a far more realistic option. Without the Vantage, it's doubtful whether Aston Martin would be the company that it is today. Without this Vantage, it's doubtful whether the brand could ever achieve the goals it has for tomorrow. It isn't the junior GT sports car its predecessor was, so approach it expecting a scaled-down DB11 and you'll be in for a shock. For us, though, that's a good thing. At last, the company has produced a really engaging driver's car and a properly circuit-tuned machine. More sophisticated than a Mercedes-AMG GT, more exotic than a Porsche 911, it's brilliant and it's British. Enough said.